The man smells like the street. His clothes are torn. His beard is matted. His hands are cracked from cold. You should not be here. You should not have made it past security. You should not be standing at the edge of the stage while Oprah interviews a billionaire philanthropist about the importance of giving back. But here he is, and he is speaking, whispering really, words that only Oprah can hear, words that make her entire body go still. The billionaire stops mid-sentence. The audience cranes to see. Security moves toward the stage. But Oprah raises her hand. Wait. The single word freezes everyone. She stands slowly. She walks toward the homeless man. She gets close enough to smell the street on him. Close enough to see the tears cutting tracks through the dirt on his face. Close enough to hear him whisper again. The same words. The words that have stopped her cold. You do not recognize me. But you should. Because 39 years ago, you made me a promise. And I am here to collect. Oprah stares at this broken man. She searches his face. She looks past the beard, the dirt, the ravages of time and hardship. And something in her expression shifts. Recognition, horror, guilt. She knows this man. She has not seen him in 39 years. But she knows him. And whatever promise she made to him, whatever debt she owes, it is about to come due. In front of the entire world. How do we get here? Rewind 126 minutes. The morning had begun with prestige. Today's show was supposed to be a celebration of philanthropy. The guest was Marcus Webb III, billionaire, heir to a real estate fortune, famous for his charitable foundations, known as one of the most generous men in America. The show was supposed to highlight his latest initiative, a $100 million donation to combat homelessness. Ironic, given what was about to happen. Marcus had arrived at the studio in a limousine. He had been escorted through the VIP entrance. He had been given the best green room. He had been treated like the royalty he was. Meanwhile, a homeless man named Daniel Price had spent the night outside the studio. He had arrived 3 days earlier. He had slept on the sidewalk. He had begged for food from the catering trucks. He had waited for his chance. Daniel was 61 years old. He had been homeless for 17 years. Before that, he had been a teacher. Before that, he had been a student. Before that, he had been a boy with a dream. A boy who had once believed that Oprah Winfrey would change his life. Because she had promised she would. In 1985, when the Oprah Winfrey Show was still called AM Chicago, when Oprah was still building her legend, she had done a segment on promising students from underprivileged backgrounds. Daniel Price had been one of those students. He was 22 years old. He was brilliant. He was in his final year of college. He was about to graduate with honors. But he was also broke. His mother had died. His father had abandoned him years earlier. He had no one, and he needed help. During the segment, Oprah had been moved by his story. She had looked into the camera. She had looked at Daniel. And she had made a promise. A promise that millions of people heard. A promise that Daniel never forgot. I'm going to make sure you succeed, Oprah had said. I am personally going to help you get to where you're meant to be. You have my word. The audience had applauded. Daniel had wept with gratitude. Oprah had embraced him. And then the cameras had stopped rolling. And the promise had been forgotten. Subscribe and leave a comment because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. For 39 years, Daniel Price had waited. He had graduated with honors, just as he planned. He had tried to contact the show. He had written letters. He had called offices. He had waited for the help that was promised, but never came. There was no scholarship, no mentorship, no follow-up, just silence. At first, Daniel thought there had been a mistake. He thought the show had lost his information. He thought if he could just reach Oprah again, she would remember. She would help. She would keep her promise. But years passed. The letters went unanswered. The calls were never returned. And slowly, Daniel realized the truth. The promise had been performance, a moment for the camera, an emotional beat in a television segment. It had never been meant to be real. But Daniel had believed it was real. He had built his hopes on it. And when those hopes crumbled, everything else crumbled with them. He became a teacher anyway. He worked in underfunded schools. He tried to make a difference. But the bitterness grew. The disappointment festered. The sense of betrayal never healed. And when his school closed due to budget cuts, when his savings ran out, when his health failed and his safety net disappeared, he found himself on the street. Homeless. Forgotten. Just like the promise that was supposed to save him. For 17 years, he survived. Shelters when he was lucky. Streets when he was not. He watched Oprah become more famous. He watched her empire grow. He watched her talk about helping people, uplifting people, changing lives. And he burned. Not with hatred. With something worse. With the specific pain of being seen once, being promised everything, and then being erased. 3 weeks ago, Daniel made a decision. He would go to Chicago. He would find the studio. He would find Oprah. And he would remind her of what she had said. Not for revenge. For closure. For the chance to look her in the eyes and ask one question. Why? When Daniel walked onto that stage, he was not trying to cause a scene. He was trying to keep a promise that Oprah had broken. He had slipped past security during a shift change. He had walked through a side door left propped open by a delivery worker. He had navigated the backstage corridors with surprising ease. And he had emerged onto the stage just as Marcus Webb III was discussing the importance of follow-through in philanthropy. The irony was not lost on Daniel. Behind the scenes, Oprah made a decision that defied every producer's expectation. She did not let security remove him. She did not dismiss him as a disturbance. She did not protect herself from what was coming. Instead, she did something that would define this episode forever. She took his hand. "Come with me," she said. She led him to the chair beside her. The chair Marcus Webb III had been occupying. The billionaire looked confused. He looked offended. He looked like he was about to protest. But something in Oprah's expression stopped him. "This is more important," she said to Marcus. "I need you to give us the stage." Marcus Webb III, billionaire philanthropist, stood up. He walked off the stage, and he took a seat in the front row, watching, like everyone else. Oprah sat down across from Daniel. She looked at him, really looked at him, past the dirt, past the years, past the devastation. "I remember you," she said quietly. Daniel's eyes widened. "You do?" She nodded. "A.M. Chicago, 1985. You were a senior in college. You wanted to be a teacher. You had the most hopeful eyes I had ever seen." She paused. "And I made you a promise." Daniel began to cry. Not the dignified tears of television. The raw, gasping sobs of a man who has been holding something for 39 years and can finally let it go. "You promised to help me," he said through his tears. "You said you would make sure I succeeded. You said you would personally make sure I got where I was meant to be." He looked at her, and then you disappeared. This is the moment no one in the studio and no one watching at home ever saw coming. Oprah did not defend herself. She did not make excuses. She did not explain the chaos of early television, the volume of people she met, the impossibility of following up on every emotional moment. Instead, she did something rare, something honest, something that would cost her more than any excuse ever could. She admitted it. "You were right," she said. "I made you a promise, and I broke it." She looked at her hands. "I do not remember exactly what happened after that segment," she said. "I do not remember why I did not follow up. Maybe I got busy. Maybe I assumed someone on my team would handle it. Maybe I just forgot." She met his eyes. "But none of that matters," she said. "What matters is that you believe me. You took me at my word. And I failed you." Daniel stared at her. He had imagined this moment 1,000 times. He had imagined anger, confrontation, vindication. He had not imagined this. Simple honesty, complete acknowledgement, no excuses. "I have spent my entire career talking about the importance of promises," Oprah continued. "The importance of showing up for people. The importance of following through." She shook her head. "But I did not show up for you. I did not follow through. And you have paid the price for my failure ever since." She paused. "I cannot give you back 39 years. I cannot undo the suffering you have experienced. I cannot pretend that an apology is enough." She leaned forward. "But I can do something I should have done in 1985. "What?" Daniel asked. "I can actually help you," Oprah said. "Not for the cameras, not for the audience, but because I owe you, because I made a promise, and because it is 39 years past time to keep it." Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. For the next hour, the planned show was abandoned. Marcus Webb III watched from the front row. The audience watched in stunned silence. The cameras kept rolling. But what was happening was not entertainment. It was reparation. Oprah asked Daniel about his life. Not his suffering. His life. She asked what he had wanted to become. She asked what he had tried to achieve. She asked what he still dreamed about. Even after 17 years on the street, Daniel talked about teaching, about the students he had helped, about the lessons he had learned, about the book he had been writing in his head for years, a book about education and poverty and the promises society makes to children and then breaks. He had never written it down. He had no paper, no computer, no resources, just the book living in his mind, waiting for a chance to exist. Oprah listened, truly listened, and then she made another promise. But this time it was different. This time there were witnesses. This time there were specifics. This time she put herself on the line. Here is what is going to happen, she said. Today, before you leave this building. She pulled out her phone. She made calls. On stage. In front of everyone. She called her foundation director. She called a publisher she knew. She called a real estate contact. Within 40 minutes, the following was arranged. A hotel room for Daniel. Not a shelter. A real room in a real hotel. Paid for indefinitely. A healthcare plan. Immediate. Comprehensive. Including mental health support. A writing fellowship through her foundation. 6 months. Fully funded. With editorial support. A meeting with a publisher. Already scheduled for the following week. And something else. Something that made Daniel break down completely. Oprah pulled out her checkbook. She wrote him out. She tore out the check. She handed it to him. This is not charity, she said. This is restitution. This is what I should have given you 39 years ago. A real chance. A real foundation. A real promise kept. Daniel looked at the check. His hand shook. The amount was enough to rebuild a life. More than enough. I do not know what to say, he whispered. Oprah took his hand. Say you will write the book, she said. Say you will tell your story. Say you will help other people who have been forgotten. Say you will turn this pain into purpose. She squeezed his hand. That is all I ask. Not gratitude. Not forgiveness. Just use this. Become who you were always meant to be, even if it is 39 years late. Daniel looked at her. He looked at the audience. He looked at the cameras. And he said something that no one expected. I forgive you, he said. The words hit Oprah like a wave. Her composure cracked. The tears came. I did not come here for revenge, Daniel continued. I did not come here to destroy you. I came here because I needed to be seen. I needed to be acknowledged. I needed someone to say that what happened to me was real. He wiped his eyes. And you did that, he said. You admitted what you did. You did not make excuses. You took responsibility. And you made it right. Not with words. With action. He shook his head. That is more than most people ever get. And I'm grateful for it. Oprah was sobbing now. For all her years of interviewing others about their pain, she was rarely the one exposed. But today she was exposed. Completely. And the exposure was cleansing. I do not deserve your forgiveness, she said. Daniel smiled. Forgiveness is not about deserving, he said. It is about choosing. And I choose to forgive you. Because carrying this anger has only hurt me. Because letting it go is the only way forward. He paused. You taught me that. Years ago. On your show. I just could not do it until now. Oprah laughed through her tears. The audience laughed too. A release of tension. A moment of grace in the midst of so much pain. Daniel Price walked out of that studio a different man. Not just because of the money. Not just because of the resources. But because he had been seen. Finally, after 39 years of being invisible, he wrote the book. It took him 18 months. It was called The Forgotten Promise. It told his story. It told the story of everyone who had ever been promised help and then abandoned. It told the story of systems that fail people, of celebrities who make emotional gestures for cameras and then forget, of the specific pain of being lifted up and then dropped. But it also told a story of redemption, of a woman who admitted her failure, of a man who chose forgiveness, of a promise kept 39 years late. The book became a bestseller, not because of marketing, because of truth. People recognized themselves in Daniel's story. They recognized the promises that had been made to them, the help that never came, the forgetting that felt like betrayal. And they found hope in the ending. Hope that it is never too late. Hope that acknowledgement matters. Hope that even broken promises can be mended. Daniel Price is 64 now. He lives in a small apartment in Chicago. He teaches writing workshops for homeless individuals. He helps them tell their stories. He helps them be seen. He has said that his years on the street gave him something. Not gratitude for suffering. Understanding. He understands what it means to be invisible. He understands what it means to be forgotten. And he understands what it means when someone finally stops and says, "I see you. I remember. And I am here to make it right." Oprah established the Promise Kept initiative after that episode. It tracks commitments made on her platforms. It follows up with people who were promised help. It ensures that emotional moments lead to actual change. It is staffed by a team dedicated solely to follow through. Because Oprah learned something that day. Something she knew intellectually but had not felt in her bones. Promises made to vulnerable people are not theater. They are contracts. And breaking them has consequences that echo across decades. Daniel visits the studio once a year. Every year on the anniversary of their confrontation. He and Oprah have lunch together. They talk about his work, his students, his life. And they remember. Not the pain. The transformation. The moment when a broken promise became a kept one. The moment when a forgotten man was finally remembered. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another story like this. Because there are more forgotten people waiting to be seen. More broken promises waiting to be mended. More moments waiting for someone to finally say, "I remember." And maybe you're one of them. Maybe someone made you a promise that was never kept. Maybe you have been waiting for acknowledgement that never came. Maybe you have been invisible for too long. If so, hear this. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be remembered. You deserve someone who shows up. And if no one else will say it, let this story say it. You are not forgotten. You never were. Someone just needs to remember. And today might be that day.